Hi, Anna. How's it going with you?
Good. How's it going with you? How do I pronounce your name?
Gig.
Gig. Okay.
All
Nice to meet you,
right.
Gig. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you for speaking to us about your film, Deadly Illusions.
Yeah, this is
You,
fun.
you must be so proud that when it was released on Netflix a couple months ago, that I think it was a trending film, right?
Yeah, it went number one everywhere else but the US first. So that was fun to see like the momentum building towards the US. And then I think we were number one in the world for eight days.
Wow. That
Yeah.
says a lot about a movie if it's trending not in the U.S. but the rest of the world, which is great for you.
Yeah, that was super fun. And I think it was in the top 10 for like 12 days. So yeah, I mean, are we recording? Did we start?
Yeah. We're
Yeah, okay,
talking.
great. Okay, great. Yeah, I when we set out to make the film, it was just I wanted to make like the true art house, like independent, genre noir kind of thing. And never did I think we would get picked up by Netflix. I just didn't think that was gonna ever happen. And so when that happened and like the pandemic and all of that, it just took its own like course. And then obviously to actually hit like a nerve, I guess, in our world zeitgeist was just a lot of fun.
Terrific. So, where did you come up with the concept for Deadly Illusions? How did that basically came to your head to write this story?
Yeah, great question. I had made two horse movies, family horse films that I like to call them. And they deal with like good morals and just all together, our streamlined stories, right? And so I guess after going through that, and shooting with horses is a challenge in of itself. I thought I want I want to make something that's a little more simpler, right? But I wanted to sort of break some screenwriting rules that I'd been taught, because I found just in retrospect, like some of my favorite films did that, right? And so I sort of challenged myself to put myself out there. And one of the things I wanted to see if I could do is to create a feeling. And the feeling was, am I crazy or is the other person crazy? And there's like no clarity in that. Um, and I wanted to see if I could center or write a story around a feeling versus like a plot or a point to the plot or a character arc or any of those things that we've been taught.
Wow, your college professors must be proud of you now.
Right? It's like you can't break the rules unless you know the rules, right? And then there's some rules you have to stay on target with, and then others you can break. And I think that might be part of it, the why people love it and also why people hate it, because it just doesn't fit into these like typical boxes that we're used to.
But this is something that you always sought after, right? You didn't want to make a typical movie. You wanted to make something different that people would talk about.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to poke the bear. I wanted to like portray female sexuality in a cerebral way, a mind fuck way, like in for women, that's what sexuality is. It's more of the mind, and if you can connect with us there, you've got us. So I wanted to highlight female sexuality in a classy, less is more type of way. Like, can we create something that can be more tantalizing than pornography? And can we make something that's alluring and also revealing of the woman's psyche in regards to her own sexuality?
So for one of the things that I found fascinating was, there was always that challenge of approaching a film that's sort of meta in its own way, because you're approaching a character who's writing a novel, and then she becomes sort of like a character in her own novel. How did you want to basically try to carefully do that for the film like Deadly Illusions?
Yeah. Well, they say you can only write about what you know about, right? So there is a meta situation in there, as myself being a mother of children, of 4 children, and a writer. So going with that idea of like, am I crazy or is the other person crazy? And trying to have self-introspection, and you get into this foggy place, like you can't make heads or tails of anything. I knew there's many different ways you can create an unreliable narrator. And one of the best places to do that is in writing, right? But there's other places too that I hope to tap into over the next 2 decades that will be fun. But I decided to go with the writer's tale on this one, and challenge myself. You know, what would happen if you had reality confused with your imagination, and what does that look like?
Was there even like an iota of thought about writing a novel instead of a script for a story like this?
You know, it's funny you bring that up, because back in my 20s, when I had small children, and I didn't know I was a filmmaker, even though I was doing all these filming things and trying to figure out like what I was as an artist, I set out to write a novel. And I was invited to a spectacular writers group in San Francisco. I was living in the Bay Area at the time, by a novelist named James D'Alessandro. He mentors the Pixar directors. Anyway, so I show up and I bring my pages from my novel, and we read our pages aloud, and he took his glasses off and looked right at me and said, "You know what? You're not a novelist." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're," I was mortified, right? He's like, "You are a screenwriter, and you need to go to Columbia or USC straight away." So that was like a pivotal moment in my life. And I think, look, I love a great novel, but you need to listen to your mentors. And I guess what he saw was I just was very economical with my words, you know, and that's what screenwriting is like, you get to the point. And I also write in a way that like I see the shot. So anyway, thus began that path. And so maybe there's a part of me that wishes I could be that novelist, you know, maybe there's, if the movie is a female wish fulfillment, for me personally, like I wanted to create something that I would be completely enthralled with and engaged with and wouldn't fall asleep to. And I think it's interesting, there's a lot of other men, or other women and men, who I guess were craving that same sort of experience.
Wow, well, the journey led you here, so I guess it ends up for the better anyway. So
Right. Yeah, there is some, I am thinking of turning the movie into a book, right? Like to have the book and maybe do like some fun Easter eggs in there, clues or whatever. And then if we do a part 2, which is kind of in the works, like I'll write the book first, and then maybe we'll make the movie, so that you'll want to read the book and glean some clues or something. That's sort of like what's percolating right now. But yeah, I love the psychosexual thriller. I read a ton of those kind of books as a young person, and I didn't even realize that that's what it was called. And that's what this is. It's a sort of unforgotten genre. It's part of the thriller genre. And I think for some who've never experienced this genre, it's like shocking for them, but then they're like addicted and they keep watching, but they don't know why. And they also don't understand that they can laugh and they can giggle and they can have fun with it. You know, as I like to say, like, you got to be like 2 beers or 2 champagne glasses in, like, have fun. You know, it's a noir.
for some unknown reason, I thought like a quarter of the movies in Lifetime Channel is sort of like this these psychosexual films. I mean, it's a genre that people keep on watching it. That's what I think.
Yeah, I guess one of my producer friend, he watched an early cut, and he like came to me the next day and was like, "It's like Lifetime movie on steroids. Like, it's like crack. Like, tell me right now, what's the ending mean? I need to know right now." And that was just super fun for me to see one of my peers just completely sucked into it before the movie even came out. So I knew we had something special, which is fun. It's just really fun.
I think that's great. Now, like you remarked before, and I also saw in your filmography, you did 2 horse movies, but in this case, you kind of went, 180 with, filming sensual, sexual scenes, kind of sprinkled throughout. How did you want to approach that? Because you went with like, from a family friendly, with horses and animals, and then all of a sudden you have to film scenes that, between 2 women or a man and a woman and all this kind of stuff. How did you want to approach that?
Yeah, I came away from those horse movies going, gosh, shooting with horses is really hard. What? Like, if I can do that, I can do anything. And I always set out to want to make thrillers, and also romantic comedies, when I went to film school. And I love Stephen King. I love the dark world. I knew I could tap into that. I knew I had this capacity within me, but the horse movies were just opportunities, right? And I'm very proud of those opportunities. So when you come out of that, it's super hard, extreme temperatures, horses and actor, like it's on a low budget is like beyond difficult, right? I guess in my mind, I thought if I could just like storyboard these scenes, and have a clear plan and be really upfront with it with my actors, that it would be easier than horse movies. Little did I know that is not the case. I actually like made my life harder, but it's fine. We're fine. I'm alive.
Well, I guess that's the motivation of being directors. It's always find new challenging things to do. So
yeah, I guess too, I like the idea of, I personally like these like iconic scenes in my mind, like the pool scene and the river scene and shopping scene. Like these are very pulp fiction-y types of like imagery, and I just long to see that imagery in a story. So I tried to like craft together, just in a menagerie of fun for our brains.
That's great. Now, how much of you are into the main character that's played by Kristin, the novelist?
How much of myself? Well, I think
Yeah.
I'm a little bit in all. I have a theory that writers, I mean, it's really all the characters are a part of our psyche. So we're a little bit of all the characters. And we also, if to really write compelling characters, you have to have empathy and understanding for all of them, which goes back to how art is a form of therapy, right? And so this film, I think, if that's the case, if art's a form of therapy, there's people that have been missing out on this type of therapy. And so by being honest with myself about my own fears and inhibitions and desires, I knew getting vulnerable would pay off. I didn't know how it would pay off. I just knew it would resonate, because when filmmakers I look up to, when they get vulnerable, I feel most not alone, right? And I appreciate that vulnerability. And so, I take this role very seriously. Like, my job is to not only provide entertainment, but to give you that ride that you may need. And it may not be for everyone right now. Maybe you'll come back to it in 5 years and go, oh yeah, I needed this, but for the people who it resonated with right now, especially with the pandemic, my sound designer made a good note. He's like, it's like the movie's like the id of what we just went through. It's a mind fuck. And so it's like this sort of therapy session, whether you love or hate it, it's still, you get to the end, like you don't click away because you're just riveted, right? To know am I crazy, or is this thing like, what is going on right now?
Now, what obviously, like you said, there's a little bit of you in all the characters, but I do want to say that the cigar thing, you smoke cigars, right? Is that why you put it into the film?
I do. Yeah. And actually, Greer and I, when we wrapped the first film, Emma's Chance, that we worked on for my birthday, we went to this fun restaurant in LA and we smoked cigars, because she smoked cigars at the time too. And that's how I knew she was like my bosom buddy for life, because, you know, we're both quote unquote good girls, you know, but we like to have a good time and we like to mix it up. And I maybe smoke a cigar like once a month or something.
That's great. Now you mentioned Greer, before, but you worked with her before. Is she your go-to actress now?
I kid now. Yeah, she's the Jason Statham to my Guy Ritchie. She's the Leo to my Marty. She really is like, she's my girl. I mean, I don't know if we'll work on every single film together, because I always say, I'm like, Greer, we have to go off, do our things, come back together, go off, like. But yeah, I have so many stories that I've written over the years that I'm gonna pull off the shelf and dust off. And she literally, if I sit down and think about it, kind of fits in so many of them in different ways. I really believe in her as an artist. On that first movie, I saw she was playing a specific type of character, but I saw different facets of her personality, like on set, but also offset after saying cut. And I was like, wow, this girl is good. Like she really has it. She really lives in her imagination. And I truly believe, yes, she is a Grammer. She's, you know, Kelsey Grammer's daughter, but regardless of that, I think acting would have found her, and she believes that too, because she just has the special uniqueness needed to really, you know, pop.
What was it difficult to direct her in her own way, because she had to play a character that's a lot different from, you know, the horse movies or that good girl image that she has portrayed on television before, you know, that kind of stuff. Did you find it challenging, or did she transition quite easily?
Oh, you know, that's also a great question. I think with Greer, I felt the most prepared with her, because at that time when I pitched the project to her and then we were going out to shoot, I had known her 3 or 4 years, you know, on a daily basis, like whether it is, you know, birthdays or friend gatherings or just communicating through social media. Like I just felt so connected to her, and I felt like I really, even though we shot that movie and I barely knew her, I got to know her better over those years. The part of her character that's super challenging, right? I knew she had the capacity and the wherewithal to pull that off because of her work ethic and her commitment to this art form and her career. And so, you know, that there was maybe just a little bit of discussion with that, but overall, I sort of wrote the part for her based on my own instincts and intuition and what I knew about her.
Wow. Now, of course, I don't want to forget the rest of the cast with Kristin and Dermot. Could you talk about them? I met Dermot before, and he's a really hilarious guy, so I was quite surprised in this film.
Yeah, Dermot and Kristin are remarkable. Kristin Davis, from the moment I met her, we sat down at lunch and she had hard questions for me. She was very thorough. She loved the material, but she wanted to know how I was going to pull this off. And I tried to assure her in the best possible way, like I'm going to storyboard all these scenes. And I wrote a letter at the beginning of the script, like my goal is to show that this can be more tantalizing than pornography, that less is more, that by not showing, we make it so the audience has to imagine more. And when they're in their imagination, they go on a ride, right? Than being force fed all these things. And so it was a far out there idea. And she was like, I don't know. And then I give her so much credit because she took that leap of faith with me. And I think that's because she's not only was she allured by the material, but she's also a smart businesswoman. And I adored her. She's an incredible talent. I got so lucky. And then we were talking about names and I was like, what about Dermot? And her eyes lit up and I was like, okay, this could be, and I didn't know if we could get Dermot. He called me when he was in Barcelona working on Hannah. And he's like, just tell me one thing. Why do you want to make this movie? And I told him why. And he goes, okay, that's a good reason. All right, I'm in, you know? And it was like, what? I was so excited. It was literally a dream moment for me.
He is so nice. One of the things that I have to admire is that house is gorgeous. I'm not supposed that's your house.
Yeah. No, it's not my house. Thank you. And you know, the family that let us use that home, they are sweethearts. Like, I am such good friends with them to this day. Lori is the owner. And anyway, we had a ball with that family. I basically was shown the house, and she was really didn't want any more filming. She had done other filming, and I sort of begged and pleaded, and I said I would make it worth it for her. And I really tried to speak to why this movie is important. But yeah, the house that I had envisioned was not as modern, but it still had like these clean lines. The idea that they have this successful life, this quality of life that you would be afraid to lose. So it would create that pressure for her to be forced back into writing. And that pressure is like the worst kind of thing an artist can have, right? It can cause some fuckery in the mind. So I knew the house had to be at that caliber, and we were just fortunate to find that in New Mexico. I loved shooting in New Mexico.
I think that was great. Well, let me start wrapping up with one more thing, because everyone likes to talk about is the what the fuck ending that you actually came up with, because you're in your head, you're already working on a sequel, but how you ended it's like so open-ended, like you just let our imaginations run wild. Is it even a good idea to come up with a sequel and just let us run with it?
I know, that's a great question. Like, maybe we should just leave it alone, right? Would I be doing a disservice? You know, and maybe there won't be a sequel, maybe there will be, but the idea that I have for this, I don't even want to call it a sequel, I call it part 2, really, it opens up the world even more, right? And allows for more of this mindfuckery to go on, but also close some chapters that need to be closed, but opening up new chapters. So I would never do a sequel unless I thought it was as good or better than the original. Otherwise, it's like, we could do so many other things, you know? But yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, it's a fun world to be in, right? And I will say selfishly, like, we wanted to give the audience that sort of trip at the end, but we also were independent filmmakers and we wanted job security. Like, if we leave it a little bit open-ended, maybe we will get that sequel. And I thought maybe 5% chance. So to even have that conversation right now is really fun.
I think that's terrific. Well, Anna, hey, thank you for speaking to us about your film Deadly Illusions, which will be out, released digitally on multiple platforms next month. So this is a terrific conversation, and I think you should still come up with a lot more films that, you know, mind fuck us. So
okay, I will do that. I'm working on one right now, and it's totally different, but just as fun. So thanks so much for having me, Gig. This is fun.
Hey, not a problem. Thank you. Next time.
Okay, bye-bye.